Welcome to Camera Shake Podcast, episode 95, and we are back. Yes, we are back. We're back. We had a little break, but we're going to come to that in just a second. You are here with us, Camera Shake Podcast, episode 95, on the air. And of course, this is the podcast where we talk about photography, videography, and anything that's got anything to do with any of that with me, Kersten Lutz, and Nick Kirby.
Shalom.
As always.
Wait, hello?
Exactly. Well, it's been 2 weeks. Like, why didn't anything happen last week? That is the question that I'm sure everybody listening to this is asking themselves right now. What happened last week?
Let's just... You were very windy last week, should we say?
Yes.
So it took me a minute to come up with something.
This is true. Well, what actually happened was... so we are going through a set of extreme weather conditions in the UK at the moment.
Yeah.
And so we are now on storm 3. Is that the third? It's the third storm, isn't it?
Yeah, in about a week, yeah.
And it was Storm Dudley, then it was Storm Eunice, and now it's Storm
Frederick?
So,
Francis?
No,
it begins with an A.
Something
You
like
can be
that.
sure it begins with an A.
It must be Febreze.
Febreze.
Storm Febreze.
Flubblub.
Anyway, so I was in Wales last week and hanging out on top of a mountain. And although we had it all planned, the weather, unfortunately, well...
Just out of interest, were you on this mountain on your own, cross-legged on a rock, playing acoustic guitar?
Naked, yes. Ukulele. I was playing... Incidentally, this is a true story. This is actually how my aunt met my uncle. In a cave in Goa, where he was sitting naked, cross-legged, playing a ukulele, and she heard, the sounds of a ukulele coming out of a cave, and there she met him sitting.
It's like I sense a hippie family.
Well,
I don't know.
There's that, isn't it?
What's going on?
That's it. Anyway, so I was holidaying for a week in Wales, and we had it all planned out, but. Unfortunately, the weather really just wasn't going to play ball, and
nope.
And we were sitting out Storm Dudley on the top of a Welsh mountain.
So there are still places in this country where a little bit of rain will take your internet out. Yeah,
I mean it was severe. It was a severe
it's
storm.
It's like
front.
the Dark Ages here still, isn't it?
I mean, what was interesting was that, we were in this, we were on the top of a mountain in this listed building. It was a really old building. And it was awesome, actually. Just my wife and I huddled up. My wife and I and the dog huddled up, all cozy and all. Really, sitting out this weather front, this storm. And it was really interesting, man. It's actually really good fun. Scary at times, I admit, but yeah, it was good fun, man.
What scared you the most?
I think it was the noise, man. Yeah, it was the noise. Yeah. The noise was.
You do that when you snore.
Was it a storm or was it me snoring? I'm not sure. No, it was loud. It's actually I could barely sleep at night because I was kept awake by the noise. The building itself was solid. It was rock solid, so there was no problem there. But we were on the top of this mountain, and we were right on the edge of a ravine, like literally right on the edge of a ravine. And in front of us, we were in this pine forest, but right in front of the building was like a fire break. So there was actually a clear run, and so no trees right in front of the building. And so we got hit by the full force of the storm there. And so, it was the noise from hell, actually. And then we had these skylights in the ceiling as well, so we could watch what was going on out there. And we were on the same level as some of the tree tops, and so we could see this pine trees go crazy. It was just really, it's a crazy, crazy experience. And then of course with the wind speeds as they were, like we had 120 miles an hour kind of winds, which was insane.
It's quite heavy.
Yeah, it's heavy, and we could see. I was laying in bed and I was looking at through these skylights, and basically I could see the clouds race by, and I could see stars, and then. It's just nuts. It's a really cool experience, actually. But unfortunately, it took out all the internet and everything else. So, that we were stuck. Well, I say stuck on this island. We could have driven off, but hey, we were on this mountain. It was fun. It was really good fun.
Oh, that's good. It's good. The worst I had was taking the rubbish out and getting blown away.
Yeah. Well, we had some derooted trees in the park.
It was the same still here, and round to the south of London as well. It's all pretty much identical everywhere.
Yeah, it was
trees.
Nice.
Trees were down all over the place, and roofs off too. I think places.
Was it? I heard somewhere they were saying it's just the heaviest storm for 30 years or something.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I can't remember.
Really?
You know, I've lived in this country for probably now, where we are like 26 years, and I don't remember it ever been. I mean, I've seen storms and everything, but I don't remember it being this bad.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I feel like I remember storms much worse than this as a kid.
Yeah, but then you're little,
right? Exactly. But I don't remember. Like, if I think about the last 7 days, where the most of it was kind of happening. Yeah, all right. There's a bit of wind going on outside, and if you went outside, it was bloody windy. But out, you normally hear it inside, and you feel things move. I didn't really get a lot of that. But you go out there and you see what it's done.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You know what I've certainly not ever experienced is this thing where we had 3 storms back to back. Like there was literally, right, Storm Dudley. That was the first storm front.
I'm not on board with giving storms names.
Oh yeah, I don't know where that comes from, but it's but anyway, so we had the first storm, Dudley. We heard this in Wales, and then we so on Thursday
it was Eunice, wasn't it? Yeah.
We were driving back, and that was sort of the day of the lull, right?
Yeah.
So it was actually a perfectly fine day, and then the very next day we had the next storm coming in called Eunice.
You're lucky. I don't know directionally whether it made any difference, but Eunice was a stronger.
Yeah, it was even stronger
storm.
than the first one. Yeah,
so yeah, assuming it would follow a similar path to the first one, you're lucky you weren't there this week.
See, the thing is, when Eunice hit here in the sort of Greater London area, we actually felt like we've already been doing this for a week, so this isn't like anything new. We've been sitting this out. But then, of course, now we've had the third storm hit us. The storm Fabrice.
It's storm Fabrice, yeah.
Or
Cyclone.
Flaberneau, or whatever it's called. I don't know.
John, I've only just thought of this now, and I wonder if it is impactful or not. Is 2 years ago, if this had happened, actually we'd all be a little bit, oh, Christ, this has happened, Jesus Christ, all of that. But since the shitty situation with COVID over the last 2 years, I think we've become a bit harder to other situations that are going on, other things that happen, other things that would typically may have got the whole country going, oh, this is the worst thing that's ever happened.
See, is it that?
It's not, it's a storm.
Is it that, or was it just a welcome distraction of all the other crap that was going on?
That too. Could be that too.
Like with, with our government and all that kind of stuff.
Sure, could be that too.
Because I'm thinking, they must be sitting there like in their, in their government offices thinking like, oh, thank God this is happening because, it's taking all the attention away from all the shit that's happening here.
Don't worry, Boris, we haven't forgotten. It's okay.
Yeah, we will never forget.
We don't care that much about a storm, I promise you.
Exactly. But, I mean, it's, that's what I'm thinking anyway. Or conspiracy theory, was it a man-made storm?
Obviously, by the Chinese free 5G. I'm assuming that's what you mean.
Well, clearly.
Otherwise, how else would it happen?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, actually, no, it couldn't have been the case because, it was a storm and I lost all of my internet. So,
there you go.
That's, that theory doesn't work out.
There you go. Absolutely.
Man. So, I mean, that's, that was an interesting experience though. And unfortunately, for the first time in 95 episodes, we weren't able to actually put out an episode, but we'll make up for it one way or another. So
exactly,
that'll be cool. Anyway, so there we are, episode 95. We've made it this far. Sounds good. Now, How's the running going, Nick?
Is that enough of an answer?
Very well.
Insert sound effect of some kind of, what's it called? Tumbleweed. Yeah. It went really well. Twice.
All right. Okay.
And then, long story short, my back hurt, and that's it. I'd stop for a bit. I don't know if it's as a result of starting to run again. I don't think it is, because there are the ways that where I'm sitting and types of work that I'm doing lately that involve being in a consistent position for a while, and that's not good for my back, and I know it's not. And I wonder if running and that impact has just pushed it over the edge.
Yeah.
It's all right now. It's okay now. So in a few days, I'll think about running again.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it's not through not wanting to do it. 2 days. What day are we now? Monday, Sunday. So it must have been Saturday. Took a dog for a walk and started running for a bit.
Okay.
You know, it was only like a haphazard kind of jokey kind of run just to get the dog to run and all of that. Felt brilliant.
No.
Just for a few hundred yards, you know, well, not even that, you know, it was maybe 50 meters or something like that. It felt brilliant. Felt really good. I thought, oh, do you know what? I needed that. Just that 50 meters. That's all it needed.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, I mean, you know, I started running as well. You know, as we discussed a couple of weeks ago, and it's, you know, it was going fine the first week. Obviously, you know, I went out for 3 runs. Then the storm hit, and then there was just no way. There was just no way.
Worth it. It's not worth it.
I was kind of thinking, like, either, you know, you run against the storm and you've got no chance, or you know, you run with the storm, in which case you might be getting much further, much faster than you bargained for. You know,
like you're the full speed $1 million man.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, it seemed a little too dangerous, actually. So I kind of give it a break.
It.
But
not worth it.
But it's been, I mean, it's not been too bad, really. You know.
Okay.
And I've actually really been enjoying all the like little fitness app things on the Apple Watch. You know, that was the kind of deal, the bargain I kind of cut with myself. The deal that I cut with myself was that, you know, I was going to buy an Apple Watch, but then I was actually going to take the opportunity and go out and, you know, start working out a little bit and going out running, which, you know, has so far it's been all right. But yeah, so, you know, I've been enjoying it.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
It's been good.
As long as it gets you bloody going again.
Yeah, it really needs.
It does make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't care. You know, people say, "Oh yeah, buy that tech for that or whatever." Bulls. I don't buy into that complaint against it, because whatever gets you moving is a good thing. I don't care what it is.
See, that was the thing. So my motivator was, I felt for quite some time that I had to get myself motivated to do something, you know, because literally when the pandemic hit the first time, you know, we had the lockdown for the first time, my motivation to work out just went straight down the basement. I mean, it was just like, you know, I just lost all motivation whatsoever. And I found it really difficult to pick myself up from that over the last year and a half or so. And so I needed to kind of, you know, find the carrot, you know, that would get me back out there. And so I kind of thought, you know, if I spend the money on an Apple Watch, I basically then have to kind of justify that to myself by saying, right, I'm going to use all the features that are available to me, and I'm actually going to make the best out of it. So I'm going to actually make it, you know, a useful thing, if that makes sense. And that's kind of how I justified it to my wife too.
She's so naive.
That's the thing. Well, but, you know, so far so good. I mean, so far so good. You know, I feel like I've kept my part of the bargain. My side of the bargain.
Have you decided how many runs that watch is worth?
No, not really. I mean, I figured that actually, if I start with like 3 runs a week, then I feel
That
good.
was
And
my goal.
that's kind of how I started. And it's been good. But so so far so good. But here's the thing: I came across something this week, which I thought I'll talk to you about, because I know that you've been buying up watches.
That is true. Yeah.
So you've been buying up mechanical watches, right?
Mm.
Okay. What was the thinking behind that? Because I may have an insider tip for you.
Well, it sparked out of just a conversation I was having, and there are two main reasons. One, there are certain watch styles and periods, I guess, which I just love the look of those watches.
Mm-hmm.
There's something almost calming about having a regular watch on your wrist.
True. Than
a smartwatch, or having to pick up your phone to look at the time, let's say. Even though I still do that most of the time, because it's ingrained in me now. It's a total habit to pick up your phone to look at the time.
I've stopped doing a lot of that.
Really?
Yeah, I have. I actually really have.
Oh, that's a good thing. It's a really good thing. And the third reason is investment.
Yeah.
And that's where this initial conversation came from, is because it's a particular watch or type of watch that I really liked and was just looking at anyway. Turns out that that brand was re-releasing them.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you got the 60s version of them, because they're re-releasing them pretty much as they were, what happens when you re-release something? The originals go up massively in value.
Okay.
And that was kind of part of the thing. And that kind of started me on a little bit of a journey.
Right, okay.
Cool. So I haven't got many. I've only got 3 or 4 or 5, something like that. But it's just get me thinking about it. I really enjoy it. It's fun.
Cool. So I thought, because I know you're like mechanical watches, although you are
I've got a pocket watch now as well. That's true.
Okay.
That's true. An old one.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah,
right,
really old one.
Not one that you're wearing with your little vest top.
Vest top. No, it's currently in a watch case right now. But no, yeah.
I've seen a vest top with a.
Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
Yeah. Well, so I came across this a little bit of news, if you want to call it that, and I kind of thought of you because I thought I've got hot off the press investment tip for you when it comes to watches.
This better not involve an Apple Watch. Otherwise...
Oh no! We're talking full mechanical.
Okay.
First series, brand new. A classic in the making.
In the making. That's
watch.
Just a giveaway right there, isn't it?
Now, of course, this has to link back to photography somehow. Now,
who's making one?
Right, who's making a watch? Like, which camera company do you know that makes extraordinarily expensive cameras that would, in your opinion, potentially also consider making watches? What if you thought about that? If you thought about a camera company making watches,
Hasselblad.
Okay, good call, but it's not Hasselblad.
Leica.
Yes. So Leica just announced the Leica L1 and L2 watches. Yes.
Okay.
Now here's the thing.
All
okay,
right.
So hear me out. I mean, these watches are.
How do you make that move?
Well, okay. So the thinking is, if you could make a camera that's extraordinarily overpriced to some extent, some would say,
because I now have a decent understanding about how watches are made. Right. It is almost guaranteed. No, it is guaranteed that they've just. Are they Swiss?
No, they're German.
They're going to be German, are they?
But they're not going to be there. They are.
Leica.
Yeah.
But are they going to say they're going to be Swiss-made watches or not?
I don't think
Do you
so.
know what
No,
I mean?
I think they're German made.
Yeah.
German engineering. That's what I said.
Oh. Caffeine shampoo for your hair.
Yeah.
I mean, all the innards will just be bought from somewhere, and they will just slap a body on it and slap their name on it.
Well, they were 10 grand.
They're not worth 10 grand.
But it's the name on it.
Yeah.
10 grand.
Okay, let's see, because they might be going all out on it, to be fair. But my gut instinct, without knowing anything about it, is that the innards have come from somewhere or other.
I mean,
10 grand. Because there are many high quality watch brands out there.
Sure.
Many are well over 10 grand. Well over 10 grand.
I think it's probably, yeah.
But,
So do you think, like, for instance, like if you take something like, let's take like a classic.
It's very interesting.
Let's take a classic watch, like let's say like an Omega Seamaster or something like that, right? This is the only one. I don't know very much about watches, but that's the only one that comes to my mind. Or like you've got what if you got Omega, Tag Heuer, what other?
How do you pronounce it?
Tag Heuer.
That's how you pronounce it, people. In case you don't know, that is how you pronounce it.
Are they German or Swiss or something?
It's like,
whatever. But that's I'm guessing that's
it's all the same, no?
Yeah, I'm guessing that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. But anyway, so you take I mean, the only model that I kind of know from the top of my head is like an Omega Seamaster. So you take that. I mean, if you take that watch, right, and that is these watches are pricey if you bought one, right? Like, I mean, would you say like the innards of it are worth the price, or do you think it's more of like a brand? You pay for the name type of a thing.
Well, they make their own innards, I believe. I'm gonna be. Oh God, this is opening me up to a world of pain potentially. I believe they make their innards, just like Rolex.
Oh, Rolex!
I think will make their own innards, and
but you can pick up a Rolex for 25 quid, some street market down in Florence, right?
Of course you can.
They're definitely all real, for sure.
You can have 10 of them up your arm if you want. No worries. No worry, Del boy.
What?
I don't know. The honest answer is I don't know. Who knows?
I mean, I find it interesting that Leica are going into that direction. I mean, just because actually I've seen them. I've seen photographs of them.
Why are they doing?
Well, okay. So the cynic in me would basically say that if you can sell some really overpriced cameras to some people, you can probably sell some overpriced watches to the same sort of people. But
okay. Think of it this way. The only people who are probably going to buy those watches are people who already own Leica cameras. Otherwise, the brand Leica means nothing to anybody else.
That's very true. That is very true. But I heard something. I was listening to somebody else talk about this the other day, and so the one thought that actually stuck in my mind was that thing whereby, like, when you start to, I mean, because obviously they're new, right? Leica watches are new; they're brand new. So when you talk to somebody about Leica watches, even somebody who doesn't know anything about photography, you could kind of take it from the angle of like, oh well. This is like a watch. They're brand new. They haven't made watches for very long, but what they have done is for the last 100 years is they've made some of the world's best cameras. Mm-hmm. So you have that thing behind it. So they're not like, do you know what I mean? They're not like a brand new company. They've actually been around making precision engineered stuff.
It helps, for sure. It definitely helps.
So my question would be, like, would you see that as a worthwhile investment? Like, would you see the value of those?
I don't see it as an investment. No way. Not right now.
Right.
Not right now. I'm happy to be corrected in 10 years. But for what they're selling it at right now, for an unknown watchmaker who probably won't make watches for that long, you're not going to make your money back on that. If you try and sell it in 5 years, 10 years, you're not going to make that money back. I don't believe.
So here's the thing, right? So if you look at that in the context of this little gem of a fact.
That said, I'm thinking through why they're doing it at the minute.
Are you thinking like, oh, maybe I should buy a...
No.
Maybe I should invest in a Leica watch.
No, I'm actually thinking if they market it right to the right people who don't own a Leica camera, they've got the possibility of that reciprocal. Those people then buying that watch might go, oh, I'm interested in oh, God, they make cameras, don't they? I'll go and get one of them because they've already spent that kind of money. They've got money to buy like a camera.
Well, I mean, and in all seriousness, of course, even if they were marketing this to their already existing audience, they already have an audience that is, first of all, very brand aware, and also have the necessary extra coin, to spend on, like a camera gear, which, we all know without any, what's the word? Like without any preconceived ideas or whatever, you do pay for a brand name. So, over the odds, some would say. So, but people who are willing to to part with that amount of coinage for a Leica camera, they're probably most likely, at least a proportion of that audience, will be willing to part with said watch at the same time. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense to market a luxury product to people who are into buying luxury products.
Of course.
That's cool. But here's the thing. This is all happening in front of a backdrop of camera sales falling dramatically. Okay, and so here's the thing. Another little nugget of wisdom or of another little fact that I've come across is the fact that camera sales are down 30% in the last year.
Across the board.
On the year before. Across the board. And that's because, predominantly because of a shortage of silicon around the world. And that's got to do with a whole range of different factors, the pandemic being one of it, blah, blah. But we've been talking about a shortage of, chips and processors and all the rest of it, in the past. But basically, the silicon, the mineral silicon has been in short supply, and so therefore, that's all got an impact. So basically, sales are down 30% on an overall volume of sales that's only 8% of what it was 10 years ago. That's massive if you think about it, as far as the camera industry is concerned. And we've talked about, delivery delays and all that kind of stuff, over the last few months. We talked about Nikon having problems shipping out the Z9. Canon are most likely to have issues with the latest models for the same reason. And we know this, even if you read news about the automotive industry, whatever, everybody's got the same problems. In the electronics world, there's just not enough silicon to go around to make lots of microprocessors, and therefore everybody's suffering, especially, car manufacturers who use, shed loads of processors in their cars, camera manufacturers, whatever. But of course, the camera market has been shrinking dramatically anyhow. Like I said, it's 8% of what it was 10 years ago. Right, because everybody's got a smartphone and everybody's got a camera in their pocket, for whatever other reasons. But now it's dropped 30%. So if you're a manufacturer like Leica, wouldn't it make sense to look at other ways, other types of products?
Of course it does.
So that's kind of an interesting thought, because you're going to go, well, interesting that they're coming out with a line of watches.
It's just an interesting route to go. You think you would automatically assume they'll go with something that associates with cameras in general, maybe, or that world at least. But this is totally different world. I don't know. We'll.
So the design is
we're going to see.
The design is kind of. I mean, okay. So what they're saying is that the design is kind of photography inspired. I've seen some photographs of these watches, and
the design is photography.
I know.
It just sounds.
They look nice
to me.
I mean, they actually do look nice. I wouldn't mind, Leica, if you're listening. Right,
podcast. They need to look great.
This podcast, as you can probably guess, has not been sponsored by Leica. But if you are listening, Leica, and you are interested in sending us a few samples so we can review them on the show, please do. I'll be all ears.
And Adam Lerner, if you already have one of these watches,
Adam, if you are listening to this, please get in touch.
we would like to see one on screen.
In all seriousness, I would love to hear what you think about these, and secondly, please get in touch because just come back on the show. We might invite you back on the show. Why not? That'd be interesting. That'd be an interesting thing to talk about.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I
don't know. I don't know. You can't. I don't even think you can guess where this is going to go.
No, absolutely not. This could be just a thing. I mean, they brought out two models, the L1 and the L2.
Okay, they need to come up with better names first of all.
Yeah, the name convention is a bit weird.
It doesn't work for watches, Leica. Sorry,
I'm just thinking like Leica L1 and L2. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
L2.
Jawohl. L1, 2, 3. God. Yeah.
That's the second time I've spoken German this week. This week? Today.
This evening.
This evening,
exactly.
in fact, yeah.
Because today is my mum's birthday. Mama K's birthday today.
Wait. Alles Gute zum Geburtstag.
Well, hey! Play the fanfare.
There we go.
Yes, absolutely. Cool. So watches. It'd be so funny if we come back next week and you'd actually invested into a couple of those watches.
It won't happen.
No, I'm thinking when is your birthday? But it'll be an expensive birthday present.
I'll have one for my birthday.
No,
they're too new. I like vintage.
Yeah. Another problem with the sort of the camera industry at the moment is that, and another thing that actually causes a lot of these delays is that it's not only one component that's in short supply. There's several components that are in short supply. So as soon as whether it's Nikon or Canon or whoever, as soon as they can secure a supply of one particular component, some other component might be out of work. So it's like a whack-a-mole type of game at the moment. And so, and it's not something that's just company specific. It really is across the whole industry. Everybody's suffering the same thing at the moment. So, if you're surprised that it might take 6 months, for you to get hold of your new Z9 or something like that.
And the rest.
Or R3 or whatever, then that is just, unfortunately, that is just how it is.
Yeah. It is. Got my camera, I'm happy.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, actually, I tell you what, talking about the Z9, I spent a lot of time last week to go through a lot of the to kind of investigate the rumor mill a little bit. And there's been some interesting things that have come to my attention.
Tell me about your mill of rumors.
Well, I mean, that's Nikon and Canon actually are rumored to have a number of really cool products coming out.
Okay.
So there's some rumors that Canon are basically working on the R1, obviously, and some of the specs have been.
Have they?
Have been come out. So you get this right. So let's see what you think. So it supposedly will boast an 85 megapixel global shutter sensor.
Sorry, what?
85 megapixel.
Yeah. What was it about the shutter?
Global shutter sensor.
What does that mean?
No idea. But I'll find out.
Global shutter sensor.
That's apparently capable of continuous 20 frames per second bursts at a full 85 megapixel resolution.
Go on.
So, so they've also apparently kind of tweaked the autofocus to what's now called a quad pixel autofocus instead of dual pixel.
Okay.
In-body image stabilization capable of up to 9 stops. Along with 15.5 stops of dynamic range with a maximum ISO sensitivity of 1.6 million.
Shitting hell.
Um,
Excuse me. Sorry. I don't care about the ISO, but the...
Well, I mean, as I say, if it sounds too good to be true, so did the specs of the R5 before that came out. So, Canon are obviously working on something. I mean, if whether or not any of this actually comes to pass, but we know there's going to be an R1. We know it's going to be groundbreaking. And we know that they're going to be looking very closely at Nikon Z9. Because at the moment, the Z9 has basically...
Frankly, they need to shit all over it. Otherwise, don't bother.
Yeah, I mean, the Z9 has literally blown everything else out of the water.
They have to shit on it.
Nikon have done, as much as I've started to doubt Nikon, I've been, as everybody knows who's listening to this podcast, obviously, I've been shooting Nikon for a very long time. And, even I have gotten to the point where I started thinking, whoa, okay, I don't know where this is going. But the Z9 has really given me a lot of hope, mainly because of the the autofocus, the new autofocus system and the tracking and everything, which which I am hoping that's.
But what I said a couple of 3 weeks ago about the Z9 was, I'm just slightly worried that Nikon have given everything they've got at that, which I think they had to do regardless.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not sure right now, given their recent track history, whether they've got anything else to give.
Well, see, okay.
And Canon are
my
probably about to give more.
So my theory is this, or my hope, I would say, is this, we've spoken about this before, but I'm thinking that because, again, the one thing that's missing in the whole lineup is the Z8. And I'm holding out for the Z8. That's basically what I'm holding out for. And my hope is, and I think I'm sort of 95% certain that I'm probably right, is that what is going to trickle down to the Z8 is predominantly the autofocus system, and that is going to be a game changer in that.
I think the reality is for you personally is that if the Z8 is, I don't know, 75% of the Z9, just put it in a silly number for a minute, you would be very, very, very happy buying that. Look, that camera,
there's a
right?
lot. Yeah, there's a lot
and assuming the other specs relate to the type of work that you do and all of that, then it's actually going to make a hell of a lot of sense for you.
Absolutely. Like, look, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the Z9 that I don't need. I don't need 120 frames per second. No, I don't need any of that. Very few people do. Well, I mean, if you're shooting sports, fantastic. Again, if you're shooting wildlife, all that's cool. For me, what I do, I don't need any of that. So I can happily live without that. Even the not having a mechanical shutter thing isn't really that important to me necessarily. No. Although I generally think that is the way forward and that's the future and all that kind of stuff, because I don't really think that these kind of mechanical components really make sense in the long run. But any of that, is not really the thing. The thing for me is really the autofocus system. That would make a difference. That would actually make an actual difference to me. Low light performance. Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm really happy with the camera I'm shooting right now. But if you can improve on that. And
it all comes down, and we've said this multiple times over the last few months. It all comes down to convenience.
Yeah, convenience.
And
absolutely.
I consider autofocus as it's a necessity these days, but it's still a convenience.
See, the things like
it's not taking a better picture because of that autofocus. It's making your life easier. Getting focus consistently.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But the quality of the photo, what you're getting from your now 15-year-old camera? No, maybe not quite.
6-year-old camera.
Really?
It's about 6 years.
I'm sure it's older than that.
No, it's about 6 years old.
It's not? Okay. All right. I'll totally take that back.
Okay.
Not that old camera. Right. The quality of that picture is fantastic.
Yeah, it moves fast. Yeah,
you just don't have the autofocus system in there because it's just... frankly, crap in comparison.
Oh, sure, in comparison.
Sure. It's still all right. I still think it's fine.
Yeah, but
it does the job, right?
And again, I've just booked 2 gigs that are both sports gigs, right? And And although, this makes up a very small proportion of what I do, really. But
Is it golf?
no, it's cage fighting and boxing. But again, this would be the typical situation where
Is it turtle racing?
So that is the sort of thing.
I've got another one in me somewhere. Don't worry.
Well, I mean, but again, I mean, this is typical sort of thing where kind of go, well, okay, rather than rather than 50% of all your shots being in focus, wouldn't it be cool if 95% of all your shots would be in focus? Because actually,
Of course.
it just saves you a ton of time in post, because you don't have to go through all the images and I mean, you know what I mean? It's just overall your chances of getting awesome shots are just so much
Increased,
higher.
right?
Yeah,
Yep. Absolutely.
so in that respect, anyway, so for me, I'm just waiting for the Z8. For me personally, the Z9 is a little bit of overkill. The Z7 is just not 100% there.
Mm-hmm.
And the Z6, just wouldn't make much of a difference in terms of resolution to the camera that I'm shooting at the moment. So, for me, it would be okay. I'm going to move up in the megapixel world, as it were, and at the moment, as far as the Nikon range is concerned, that'd be the Z7. Okay, cool. But then the autofocus system isn't where I need it to be. So that's why I'm holding out for the Z8. And the Z9 for me, again, is a bit overkill. And and then of course, that business, considerations that come into it, because it's, it costs a lot of money and it's not really worth me investing that amount of money for something that I actually, I don't really need. So that is precisely why I'm hanging in. I'm hanging in there. And, if anybody else is like, why don't you change camera brand and move to Canon or whatever? Well, it's mainly, because I have a lot of money invested in glass. That's really it. And I think that's the same for most people. Once you've got a lot of money tied up in glass, then it does make sense to stay with the same system. That being said, there are situations where, of course, it makes sense to change, whatever. But in principle, it's a real factor in keeping you with the brand. It's of course they know that.
Absolutely. And I thinking about it from a monetary perspective, it's if you were deciding to move brand because your current brand were no longer doing what you needed them to do and it wasn't good enough, there's a good chance a lot of people are doing that. And there's a good chance those people who are looking to buy that gear aren't going to want to purchase that gear because it's purchasing into an ecosystem that ultimately they're going to want to get out of in the long run as well.
Yeah, sure.
That all of that being said, is that there is also a difference between those who use that gear professionally, semi-professionally, or
absolutely.
Just
big time
at the weekend.
So
these people, they all need. It doesn't. It's what feels most, particularly for those people who shoot at the weekend and those semi-pros.
Yeah.
It's about what you feel comfortable with and whether it's got the right price tag associated with it. It's not about whether you're going to stay with that brand for years.
Of course, I mean, this is the thing. I think, and I think this is really something that's really important to bear in mind, is that when you come to photography, you can come to photography for a whole variety of different reasons. If you're a semi-pro or you're hobbyist, for example, and you've got disposable income to spend on photography, which isn't the cheapest of all, the most inexpensive of all hobbies.
Good God, it's the most expensive hobby in the world.
Exactly. Then of course, you really don't have any limitations. You can upgrade to the next, to the newest camera body or the latest lens, or buy X amount of lenses and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's all cool, absolutely no problem. When you look at it from a business perspective, however, you have to justify every investment that you make against what your business allows, in a sense. And so you've got to make these business decisions. They're very different. And, in that world, it's more about like, okay, if I make this investment, what is it that I'm getting back for that investment? How is it going to change my life? How is it going to either make my life easier or better? How is it going to help me to save costs elsewhere? Or how is it going to help me to increase the quality of the product that I'm putting out so that I can charge more for it? But those are the kind of business considerations you have to make. And if the answer to any of that is just like, well, actually, the product that I'm producing at the moment is absolutely fine. Pouring more money into that or investing into equipment, it isn't going to allow me to charge more for it. Then from a business perspective, you got to go, well, this doesn't really exactly make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So unless, there's an element of future-proofing and all that kind of stuff, or whatever. I mean, there are lots of reasons for why you would do that. But I'm just saying that it's very different when you look at the whole thing through the lens of running a business compared to, oh, well, this is a hobby. I've got the money in the bank. I might as well, rather than spending it on, drugs and fast women, I might as well spend it on cameras, but then who wouldn't
How
want to?
someone spent their youth.
Yeah, exactly. Well, spent all my money on, fast women and loose drugs.
And sex kinos.
Oh, yeah. Alles klar? Okay, well, actually, talking about the Z8, because I've also uncovered a few rumors about the Z8, and that really does sound quite interesting. So
8 megapixel.
Okay, so here's the interesting thing. So Sony have come up with a new sensor for the A7R4.
Yeah.
Okay, and that was a 61 megapixel Sony Exmor R sensor, whatever it's called. And so it turns out that a Nikon have cut a deal with Sony in purchasing that sensor. Yes, because Nikon have used Sony sensors
History
in the past.
in it. Yeah.
History, right? Except for the Z9, where they made their own sensor. But anyway, so they've basically cut this deal. They've obviously been buying, or they are buying in the sensor. So the idea is, the rumor is that the Z8 will basically sport the 61 megapixel Sony Exmor sensor, which actually it's going to be a freaking awesome sensor.
Sounds pretty guaranteed, actually.
And then, for me, that's, that's cool. And there's also a rumor that says, it might feature dual CF cards, CF Express cards. Expensive.
You okay with that?
Annoying. Well, yeah, I guess I am. I mean, I guess I am. I guess I would be. More reliable, more expensive. But it's okay. Okay, well, improved image stabilization, whatever that means. A new resolution shift mode. Now, this is interesting. That will allow you to capture 240 megapixel images. Okay, well, this could be interesting for landscape photographers in particular. That could be very, very interesting.
It sounds like a.
I have an idea.
Sounds fluffy to me.
I mean, I have to look into this more closely, and obviously, once that camera comes out at some point this year or next year, I'm sure it will. Then I have another look at that. But I also have an idea as to how that could be very useful in a environmental portrait setting. So this, something kind of in the back of my mind, it might actually be very useful for that. But we'll have to come back to that. What else? Well, this, an ISO range of like 65 to 25,600 or whatever it is. So yeah, I mean, also there's been a design that's been leaked recently for the Z8 or Z8 that makes it appear as though it might be a slightly chunkier camera than the current Z6 and Z7. So a little bit more meat on it.
Might not be a bad thing.
Might not be a bad thing. Exactly. So everything that I'm hearing so far on the grapevine is all things that I'm liking the sound of.
Right direction.
Yeah.
Right kind of things for it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. 61 megapixel. Yeah, totally, absolutely 100% up for that. that sort of high resolution.
And with that, you'll still get you given the sensor, you'll still get better low light performance than your 24 that you're getting, your 24 megapixels.
Well, yeah, that'd be the idea.
You definitely.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So so it's sounding. And of course, if that then had the best,
you get a Z8, you're gonna have a Sony sensor. Oh no!
Oh well. Might as well just change to Sony. No, stupid mount. What have you done? Oh, anyway, never mind.
However, Sony, your TVs are brilliant. There's one right there.
Samsung versus Sony TVs. What do you think?
Sony every time, without fail. It's not even a question.
Oh, really? Okay, interesting. Okay, that's interesting.
You really want me to get into this?
All right, go on.
All right, fine. So Samsung's TVs. Think of the way to think of them is OLED.
Yes,
which is
QLED
is what it should be, and QLED is what Samsung did,
right?
Because they weren't allowed to do OLED.
Right.
OLED is, and someone's going to correct me, is every LED is its own whatever, has its own backlight or I don't know, whatever it is. But QLED, Samsung's version, do it in quadrants. So a bank of LEDs.
Right.
I don't know.
All the green ones in the bottom left, right corner, and all the blue ones in the top right.
Exactly. And Sony obviously take all the green ones because they love their images looking green. Yeah. We know this. It's something like
that's why the Matrix was made by Sony.
It's made by Sony. That's right. Yeah.
It all makes sense now. It's all come together.
As was Shrek.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The
Grinch.
I'm out. I can't think of another one. Damn it. There's something to do with that. Anyway, it's related to that. And their color on the Samsungs is just, I'll put this delicately, vile.
Oh, really? Okay.
In comparison to the Sonys. Now, all of that being said, most of that doesn't matter because when you just watch a TV on its own, your eyes just adjust immediately and it looks good or it doesn't look good. Most of the time, you will just look at it and it will look good.
No.
It's only when you look at them side by side do you really see the difference. So I've been watching a Samsung TV last few days, and I can, because I go between these two particular TVs often, I can see the difference as soon as I turn it on, and I hear the sound difference, and I hear this.
Basically, what you're saying is your girlfriend's got a Samsung TV. Have you mentioned that little pearl of wisdom?
It's crap tech. She doesn't care.
Awesome. Right.
Yes. You
have mentioned it.
You're wording. No, I haven't. No, but you are correct.
Okay, right.
But that's where we're going with this.
Right.
And mine's a Sony, and it just, I mean, there is depth to that the Samsung just cannot even comprehend at all.
So my watch just told me it's time for bed.
Right, fuck off.
Bedtime reminder. Oh dear.
Right, we're going to leave it with just me for a bit, if that's all right. And I'm going to do a soliloquy on something or other. Right, we're done on TVs? How do we get on TVs?
Well, no, I mean, it's an interesting thing.
Sony, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to have to change my TV, unfortunately, over the next year.
Okay. So. The other consideration, there's always a bloody consideration, is that those Sonys are significantly more expensive for for those of you on audio, I am doing massive air quotes right now.
Jazz hands.
In the same price bracket or same quality, they're just massively more expensive.
Right.
So if you were to get this was one of the flagship Bravias when I got it. It's 50. I think it's 50.
Oh, so 50.
Yeah. If you get the Samsung version of it, if you like, it will cost you probably probably half the price.
Okay.
Maybe a little over that. And you'll, again, like I say, you'll look at the picture and you'll go, it's good. And it is good.
Yeah.
You then look at mine.
Compare it. Yeah, okay.
Just go, oh, God, my picture's just a little bit crap in comparison. Or you'll just go, actually, that's the picture I want to watch.
I'm coming from a TV that has a dead bug in the center of it. And now, although we've changed the TV, our current TV, the picture looks much better than the old one, which is not really difficult because at least it doesn't have a dead bug in the middle of it. But the sound distorts. There's something wrong with the speaker thingy in it, which is super annoying.
That's the other thing about this particular this like line of TVs that they did is the speaker system within it is sensational. Yeah. And I'm an audio guy, as you know, and if that sounds good to me as a TV, it's got to be all right. Yeah. And basically, they have the sound comes through it vibrates out of the screen itself. Yeah, it's not speakers that kick out. It's very clever tech. Yeah. And it works really, really well. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, we're looking at that, I think. Now that we've been away for a week and we had we had a really cool TV that was like on a swivel bracket type of thing. I'm thinking, well, that would
there
work
we go.
in our living room.
Hang on, you've heard it here first. The mark of a quality TV is if it's on a swivel bracket.
It is apparently so. Yeah. It's also an absolute. I mean, it's a practicality type of thing because, as you know, well, you know my place, and where our TV is. Unfortunately, it's the only place in our living room where the TV can be because that's where all the connections are, right?
Yeah.
Which is annoying, but that's how it is. And so, because it's the awkward arrangement of walls and corners, we're sort of on the face of it, we're limited as far as the size of the screen is concerned, right? And so the only option would be to have it on some kind of swivel bracket that we could pull out and turn. That's the thing. So, so that was a revelation, I should say.
I understand that.
Yeah. So that's a plan. I'd say a long-term plan. It's not, we're not that hooked on the TV. Because to be honest, whenever I watch anything on my IMAX screen, on a 5K screen, it always looks a lot better than anything else anyway. So it's a hard competition.
Regular TV on that TV, I don't enjoy it all that much.
Right.
On the girlfriend's TV, looks all right.
All right, cool.
There you go. Don't want to say about that. It's just fact. It's the way it is.
Cool. Well,
low quality TV, low quality pictures look better.
Well, yeah, I mean, and there's some truth to that because so my father-in-law, don't ask me what kind of brand is. I've absolutely zero idea, but it's a huge TV. It's a huge TV. It's super high res.
Is it Leica?
Oh, it's probably, yeah. And so, and he likes to watch sports, which is, great. But I've been watching some sports in there, and we've been watching some football matches and whatnot. And it is literally like you're on a pitch with the players. I mean, it's that freaking real, And there's also something off-putting with that.
There is something off-putting about it. I agree.
And especially then when it comes to when you watch movies.
It's why I don't like 3D.
Yeah.
Because a good 3D,
well, there's good 3D and then there's terrible 3D. So
there is, but even the good stuff, you think, wow, that's really cool. But I'm not enjoying it in the same way. There's something about cinema that just works in a way that it works, and I guess it's part. 3D might still come back around. I mean, it's died a death as far as I'm concerned, but it might come around again in
it always does
20 years,
every 25 years,
when it really. Maybe they really, improve the tech.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, do it
in a different way, perhaps. But.
So there are certain situations. I mean, first of all, there's good 3D and there's terrible 3D, right? So the first 3D movie that I watched in the cinema was what's that sci-fi Smurf movie? What's it called? Blue people.
Yeah, I can't think of the
Smurfy,
title
like
right now.
Smurferson.
Yeah,
Anyway,
there's so many people shouting. Avatar.
Avatar. That's it. So you can't remember. Anyway, so that was the first movie I watched in modern 3D in the cinema, and I found it extremely underwhelming at the time because the sense of depth that you got was really like, I mean, the best way to explain it would basically be you've got 3 panes of glass. The main action is happening on the middle pane of glass.
This is the problem I have.
And then you have like stuff in the background, which is sort of looks flat, but in the background, so it's like on a different pane of glass. And then you've got stuff that they've purposefully put in the foreground, like rain or whatever.
You've just got a free look. Yeah. I couldn't agree more.
And each one of those just look really flat, and then you create a depth of sense, and a sense of depth even, by just putting these layers on top of each other, and it's sort of. It kind of works and it kind of doesn't, It doesn't look real. It's just weird.
Doesn't work. It doesn't work in the way my vision sees it. It doesn't work.
But since then, of course, the technology has really evolved, and it's gotten a lot better. And there are instances, for instance, like in the latest Star Wars movies, for example, where there are certain scenes. Because this is the thing, like 3D is. You get used to it really quickly. When you start watching a movie in 3D, you get used to it very quickly to the point where you forget it's there. And then, of course, you get to wonder, like, what's the point? Right? But there are certain kind of key scenes.
Is that good?
Well, is that good? Yeah. But there's certain scenes where all of a sudden it really becomes effective. And that's in the latest Star Wars movie, there's a couple of scenes where that's really the case. Like one is, for instance, in some of the space battles. I remember one particular scene where it just appeared as though the camera was mounted on the outside of an X-Wing fighter. And I remember that X-Wing fighter dropping into battle and just literally dropping down and just speeding into the battle. And literally you had that full sense of 3-dimensional space. And that scene on its own, you just thought, shit, I'm sitting on the wing of an X-Wing fighter. That was awesome. That's one scene in a 180-minute movie or something. Yeah. Right. So and I think each one of those movies had one of these key scenes where it was extremely effective, but then the rest of it, you sort of forget it's there, and then it becomes pointless. But, just for that experience, what we do traditionally as a family, as because we're slightly Star Wars obsessed, we always watch Star Wars movies in the cinema, but when they first come out, we will always watch them in 3D and in 2D when they first come out, because who knows, if you don't watch the 3D version in the cinema, then who knows when you'll ever have the opportunity to see it in 3D ever again. Because by the time it comes out on streaming or on whatever, it will be 2D. And so therefore, the only opportunity you really have to watch it in 3D is actually in the cinema at the beginning. And so that's why we watch it.
Have you used a VR headset?
To watch movies? No.
But done anything on one?
Well, yes, in a very limited capacity. Yeah,
me too. And I used one. I think they were called Oculus.
Oh, okay, sorry, I haven't used that.
And I had one on, and it doesn't push against your eyes, which is quite crucial actually. But you really have to look. Almost hurt your eyes. Actually hurt your eyes to see that you're seeing past. Right. Yeah. But you look around and it was just a table tennis game or something like that. The quality of the graphics in this particular instance was like a Nintendo Wii.
Oh, really? Okay.
Right? So it's that style. But I shit you not, within 20 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute maybe at most, I didn't realize I was somewhere else,
Right. Okay.
And I was putting the paddle down, and it felt like I was there.
Hey, maybe we should record this podcast in 3D video with a 120.
And you can watch this in VR.
Even like with a 360 degree camera. That would be hilarious.
That'd be very.
You could zoom around in the room,
Yeah.
on the set, see all the stuff that's going on behind us. And
All the crap
in
that's
front
on
of
the
us.
floor behind us.
that you can't see.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious.
We should do that on a shoot as well. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
There you go. VR, 3D, all of that shizzle. It's all coming.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
VR is definitely the way forward over 3D, though.
Well, what is it called? Meta.
Well, Facebook.
Well, so Meta, as in Facebook, and is it Google, who are also heavily investing into the whole metaverse type of thing? I think it's
Nothing.
yeah. So I think there's stuff to come. But before we move on to the next thing, just one more thing. Apparently, this is the final rumor that I've come across to do with the Nikon Z8 is that it apparently shoots 6K video.
Okay.
So might be interesting.
Yeah.
But we've been saying about 6K video. What we've been saying about 4K video all along. Nobody actually watches it in 6K. So hey.
I mean, I think the reality is always going to be that no one's ever going to watch anything above 4K ever.
Well,
now, hang on.
Isn't that what they said when DVDs first came out?
Precisely.
Is that exactly what happened?
It's exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. I was hoping you'd go there, but
I'm old enough to remember when DVD first sort of became a thing, and I remember thinking like, "Whoa, that's like super high resolution."
It's fucking horrendous.
And now when you watch anything in 720, you're gonna go, "God."
It's dire, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it really is. But on the flip side, of course, I mean, TV screens were much smaller back then. And that's the thing. Like,
all makes a difference.
Yeah. So
yeah,
we've talked about. I mean, this goes back to one of the very first episodes that we ever done, where we talked about the most expensive photograph in the world, which at the time was Peter Lick's Phantom. And it's actually also, that's not entirely true because, so here's the thing. So Peter Lick's Phantom allegedly sold for $6.5 million. Okay. I say allegedly because there's never actually been any proof of the transaction. The buyer has never admitted to how much they paid for it. And there's never been any transactional proof for it. So it's really, actually officially, it's actually not the most expensive photograph ever sold, because you can't actually prove how much it's been sold for. That's just the claim that it was sold for $6.5 million. So and I quite like it as far as the actual photograph's concerned. If you don't know what we're talking about, check out Peter Lick, the Phantom. Use the Google machine and you'll find it. It's an interesting photograph. Is it worth $6.5 million? Not sure, but hey, who am I to judge that? But there's actually, I mean, the actual officially the most most expensive photograph ever sold is a photograph called Rhine 2, which is an actual photograph of the Rhine River, by Andreas Gersker or something like that. Andreas Gersker. I can't remember how to pronounce that. Anyway, so that apparently sold for just under $4.5 million. Officially sold for under $4.5 million. So that is officially the most expensive photograph ever sold. Anyway, so now that we've got that out of the way, there's a potential upcoming contender to this claim of fame. And that is an image of a nude with violin F holes on her back. Nude. So this is a photograph shot created in 1924 by a photographer called Man Ray. So Man Ray is a very infamous, photographer and a very highly acclaimed photographer of the time, a very sort of groundbreaking, ahead of his time type of portrait photographer. But this particular image was sort of it's kind of called a seminal art piece of surrealist photography. Okay, and the interesting thing about that is it basically depicts, it's a nude lady, a nude lady, wearing a turban, and it's a shot of her back, and on her back are two violin F holes, right? But the F holes, the F holes, the F holes, these F holes that I'm talking about. These
I
effing
don't
holes.
want to know anything about this lady's F holes.
Whereas these effing holes that I'm talking about were not actually painted on the lady. They were actually painted on a print. And then he rephotographed that print.
Okay.
So that's how that's how that came about. Apparently, at the time, groundbreaking technique. Nowadays, Photoshop. So I'm saying. But anyway,
Photoshop, Christ.
Anyway, so this image, le violon d'un grain, also translate as ingress violin, right?
Ingress F hole.
So this is at the moment. This is slated at, it's up for $5 million. That's the asking price at Christie's.
Okay.
Right. So Christie's are basically estimating that it'll fetch anywhere between $5 to $7 million, which would make it the most expensive photograph ever sold.
Why? Why is that their estimate? Why? What's so special about it?
It's very special. Well, that's, who am I to say they're wrong?
I used to say that a picture of a river should fetch that kind of money,
Okay, here's the thing. So here's something I would like to know. Guys, if you're listening or if you're watching, do me a favor and go and use the Google machine and check out Rhine 2, which is basically RHEIN and then Roman numeral 2 by Andreas Gersker, I think. And let me know what you think. I'm really honestly interested in your opinion on this because I don't see it. I'd be perfectly honest. I just can't see it. It's a cool photograph. There's a whole bunch of parallel lines.
Ooh,
and
fancy.
But just under $4.5 million. I'm not convinced.
Sounds like money laundering to me.
So, but I'm perfectly happy to be reasoned with, and I'm super happy to be convinced otherwise. So do me a favor, hit up the Google machine, check out Rhine 2. Please let me know what you think. I'd want to know.
It's only relevant to the person who bought it.
Oh,
right.
Yes.
Right. And
granted,
if that picture is clearly just it's clearly a good photo, right? That goes without saying. However, is it? But for whatever reason, that photo rang true of the person who bought it in a way that they felt they could spend that kind of money on. And I'm guessing rang true with other people because you're not going to go in at that kind of price, are you? Someone else had to bid with you.
That kind of, that brings us back full circle to the Leica watches. Like, are you going to spend that kind of money on a watch? If it didn't say what I like on it, would you still spend the same money on it? That's what I'm saying. Is it? It's just the fact that it's a Leica watch.
You spend. You will spend them. All right, there's two reasons. You want quality merchandise that you don't have to replace. I do that with gear all the time.
Yeah,
I spend money on the more expensive stuff for a good reason, and it's because I've spent years buying the cheaper stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
And I always have to fricking replace it, or it doesn't live up to my expectations, or it doesn't this. You spend that extra money, and you get what you're expecting to get. It does what you want it to do, and it lasts a lot longer. It's not true of everything, but just in general, that works out for me very, very well. And it's took me many years to realize that, but that's just what it is. The other side of it is that if you spend 10 grand on something, and that same object you would spend 2 grand on, it might give you exactly the same feeling as it gives me. But it takes me 10 grand to get that feeling. It takes you 2 grand to get that feeling, or whatever it might be. And that's different by person.
Sure.
But ultimately, if that photo, for how much did it go for, did you say? That of the river?
Oh, for just under 4.5 million.
4 mil? If that photo made someone feel a certain way for whatever reason, and they've got the money to be able to constantly have that feeling, that's kind of where it comes from. And you can't necessarily put, that's difficult to put a price on.
It's different. I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult to put a value on anything, generally speaking, because it is ultimately, it's worth whatever anybody's willing to pay for it. I mean, that much is true. Although of course we naturally always associate, higher price with, higher quality and whatever, and so quite naturally you can start thinking, well, is that really worth that obscene amount of money?
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, if somebody's happy to pay that amount of money, and they can afford it and all the rest of it, then, why not? I mean, there's nothing, nothing to be said. It's just interesting. Obviously it's, the Ingres violin image is that, that's going up for auction, and it's been valued at between £5 to £7 million. So that's an interesting thing, because obviously if you value something at that kind of price point, then you must be relatively certain there will be a buyer for that amount out there. So that's, that's just the thing that I find interesting. That being said, if I had to compare any of those images, and that's whether that's Man Ray's English violin, or whether it's the Phantom by Peter Lik, or whether it's Ryan 2, I would be drawn to the violin picture, and that's probably because I'm ultimately at the core of it.
You do love an F-hole.
I do love an F-hole, and I'm ultimately a portrait photographer, at the end of it. So yeah, I mean that would play to my personal preferenses. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, good F-hole.
That's it. But interesting little thing. It just when I read this, I just that just reminded me of a conversation we had, like literally, I can't remember, in episode 1 or 2 or 3 or something like that. All these years ago.
Indeed.
So yeah, 93 episodes ago we talked about this.
Indeed, we did. You're right.
So, what else is new? Very quick one, because I know we're talking a lot about Canon and Nikon and stuff, but here's something beautiful for our Fujifilm listeners and viewers, because Sigma has finally announced a bunch of lenses for the Fuji X mount. They're coming out with a 16mm, a 30mm, and a 56mm f1.4 prime lenses.
56.
Yeah, for the X mount. Well, it's basically it's APS-C.
Oh right. Okay, fine.
Yeah. So these lenses are actually not new, because they already exist for the Sony E mount and the Canon M mount. So again, APS-C mounts. But Sigma have now, for the first time, released lenses for the Fujifilm X mount. So they've followed, other other manufacturers like Tamron have made some, I think, in the past. But so
we do love Sigma.
Yeah, Fuji shooters can now take advantage of Sigma. So these these lenses have been around for a little while. 1.4 sounds really good. I've read a couple of reviews for those in the past, and they've actually, they're also relatively inexpensive. So they really range from about $340 to about $480. So that's about, what is that, about 290 to about 390 pounds, roughly, something like that. So they're really at the lower range, but actually for that, the tests or the reviews that I've read were actually really positive.
Actually, really are on the lower range for them.
Yeah.
Actually,
and so they seem to be like really good value, really good value lenses. And as far as the focal lengths are concerned, albeit APS-C, but if you think about it, 16 mil, 30 mil, and 56 mil, that really gives you a really wide range. F1.4, that's a great wide open aperture. You can do a lot of damage with that sort of stuff. So this seems like a really, really, really good move for Sigma and for Fujifilm. So if you are a Fuji shooter, then that's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah.
So
I love Sigma. I've had a couple of Sigma lenses.
Yeah.
Both cracking. As simple as that.
Yeah.
They're great.
I have a Sigma I have a Sigma lens for an APS-C sensor camera, the Nikon. But that's a great lens.
Yeah.
In fact, that's actually the lens that my stepdaughter uses for her A-levels photography. Yeah. So, and she can do all sorts of different things with that, and her stuff's looking good. So it's cool. What's that? The only other thing, right? Here's the last bit of news for tonight or for today. There's been a bit of a hoo-ha about Nicole Kidman, and so Nicole Kidman showed up on a front cover of Vanity Fair.
Okay.
And nothing too unusual about that, but apparently there's been a little bit of an outcry because apparently they were a bit
12 toes.
Well, they were a bit heavy-handed on the old retouching.
Of course they were.
And that's caused a bit of an outcry.
Yeah, it still makes it onto the cover. How?
Well,
where's the QA on this? Someone explain that to me.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's one of these things. It's on one hand, there's an expectation, and on the other hand, there's this sort of thing where, people are like, well, there's too much photoshopping going on. I don't know. I mean, I've seen the cover. It's been heavily retouched. There's no doubt about that. Some people have said like, oh, well, she barely looks like Nicole Kidman. No, she is Nicole Kidman. There's no, she does look probably 20 years younger, I guess, which is unrealistic, really. But yeah, so, by all means, check that out. Vanity Fair, Nicole Kidman, again, have a look at that. Let me know. Do you think that's too much photoshopping? Or do you think that's perfectly okay? I mean, we've talked about this before, several times actually.
Yeah.
I'm never really too sure whether, my opinion personally is 100% jaded by the fact that I do a lot of retouching. So, personally, when I look at an image, I have the annoying habit of looking at things and immediately I'm drawn to something and I'll be like, I could just Photoshop it out. Or I look at something and I wonder, like, why didn't they Photoshop this out? What's the matter with them? Like, and so that is just a natural instinct because I literally do this practically every day. And so maybe I've lost my objectivity a little bit when it comes to that. And so it would be really interesting to hear from people and just to get your kind of gist on that. Check out the Nicole Kidman Vanity Fair cover. Please let us know what you think. It'd be really interesting to get sort of a different perspective on that, and maybe we can discuss that next time. But yeah,
you should see the work that has to go into your face when we release the videos for this podcast. Oh my god!
Yeah, every week. It's hard work to make me look 20 years older than I actually am.
Yes.
Anyway, so on that bombshell, I think
on that terrible disappointment.
I think that is it. That's all we've got for you today. That was episode 95, the Camera Shake podcast. Again, remember, if you are watching the video version of this, on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe, ring the bell, so that you get notified every time we bring up a new episode, which should, in theory, happen every Thursday-ish. Although it didn't happen last Thursday. Perhaps the first time. So, that being said, if you're listening to the audio version, do us a favor, write us a little review, hit the star rating, because that would really help us. Yeah, and that's it. That's all for us today. We'll see you again next Thursday.